Maggie Cheung, a name synonymous with cinematic grace and unforgettable roles like her turn in the Mood for Love, captivated audiences worldwide. But beyond the red carpets and critical acclaim lies a story of profound personal challenges and quiet battles. From her early days navigating cultural shifts and industry skepticism to the intense pressures of global stardom and the fight for privacy, her journey is one of remarkable resilience. We delve into the triumphs and tribulations of this enigmatic movie icon. For more deep dives into legendary figures, be sure to subscribe to our channel and hit the notification bell. The journey of Maggie Cheung, a name that would later echo through the grand halls of international film festivals, began not on a stage, but in the bustling city of Hong Kong in 1964. Her early years were soon uprooted when, at the tender age of 8, her family moved to Kent, a county in England. This was not just a change of scenery. It was an immersion into a world starkly different from the vibrant, Cantonese-speaking environment of her birth. Imagine a young girl, suddenly a minority in her school and neighborhood, grappling with a new language and unfamiliar customs. These formative years in England, while perhaps broadening her horizons in the long run, were also tinged with the subtle but persistent hardship of feeling like an outsider. She later spoke of encountering racism, those casual cruelties and unspoken biases that can deeply affect a child trying to find her place. It was an experience that likely forged a certain resilience in her, a quiet strength she would draw upon in her future career. The dream of acting was nowhere on her radar then. Her aspirations were more aligned with becoming a hairdresser or something similarly ordinary, far from the dazzling lights of showbiz. When she was 18, Maggie returned to Hong Kong. The city she had left as a child was now a place to rediscover as a young woman. Shortly after her return, a chance encounter, or perhaps a gentle nudge from her mother, led her to enter the 1983 Miss Hong Kong pageant. This decision was a pivotal moment, a doorway into a life she had never envisioned. The pageant world was a whirlwind of its own. While it offered a platform for young women to gain visibility, it was also an intense pressure cooker. Contestants were constantly scrutinized, their appearances judged, their every move analyzed by the media and the public. Maggie, with her unique blend of Eastern and Western influences, stood out. She didn't win the crown, but she secured the first runner-up position and, significantly, the Miss Photogenic Award. This accolade was a testament to her striking looks and telegenic quality, attributes that television executives were quick to notice. More than the titles, the pageant provided her an immediate entry point into Hong Kong's entertainment industry. The Miss Hong Kong pageant win swiftly led to a contract with TVB, the city's leading television station. Suddenly, Maggie Cheung was an actress, thrust into the demanding schedule of television production. She appeared in several TV dramas, learning the ropes of acting on the job. It wasn't long before the burgeoning Hong Kong film industry came calling. Her early film roles, however, often typecast her. She was frequently seen in comedies, or as the pretty girlfriend or damsel in distress in action films, most notably alongside Jackie Chan in the popular Police Story series. While these roles gave her exposure and made her a familiar face to audiences, they also began to cement an image that would become a source of professional frustration for her. Critics and some segments of the public started to label her as a flower vase, a decorative, beautiful presence on screen, but lacking in genuine acting depth or serious talent. This tag, though common for many attractive young actresses starting out, was a significant hardship for someone who aspired to more. It was a dismissive label that undermined her efforts and potential, reducing her to her looks rather than her capabilities. The sting of being perceived as merely ornamental rather than a serious performer fueled a growing desire within her to prove them wrong, to show the world that she was more than just a pretty face. This period also saw her personal life begin to attract media attention, a common byproduct of fame. Her relationship with director Derek Yee, which started in the mid-1880s and lasted for a few years, became public fodder. In the intrusive media landscape of Hong Kong, celebrity relationships were, and still are, prime material for gossip columns and tabloid headlines. Every public appearance together, every rumored disagreement was subject to speculation. This constant scrutiny of her personal life was another layer of pressure, a hardship that many in the public eye endure. The loss of privacy, the feeling of one's personal joys and sorrows being consumed by strangers, was a challenging aspect of her rising stardom. While she was learning to navigate the technical craft of acting and battling preconceived notions about her abilities, she was also learning to deal with the intense glare of the spotlight on her life off-screen. These early years, marked by relocation, the pageant's unique trials, the struggle against typecasting, and the beginnings of public intrusion into her personal affairs, were crucial in shaping Maggie Cheung. They laid the groundwork for the fierce determination and artistic integrity that would later define her celebrated career, as she slowly but surely began to dismantle the flower vase label and emerge as one of her generation's most respected actresses. The path was far from easy, paved with unseen struggles and the constant need to prove herself beyond her photogenic appeal. The late 1980s marked a significant turning point for Maggie Cheung, a period where the tide began to shift against the dismissive flower vase label that had shadowed her early film appearances. It was not an overnight transformation, but a gradual, determined effort to seek out roles that offered more substance, roles that would allow her to explore the depths of human emotion rather than just complementing the male lead. A pivotal film in this evolution was Wong Kar-wai's directorial debut, As Tears Go By, released in 1988. In this gritty crime drama, Maggie played a vulnerable young woman caught in a turbulent world, and her performance resonated with a newfound emotional intensity. It was a departure from her lighter fare, signaling to critics and audiences alike that she possessed a dramatic range previously untapped. This role was a clear statement of intent, a conscious step away from the purely ornamental and towards characters with genuine interior lives. The whispers of her being just a pretty face started to quiet down, replaced by an anticipatory murmur about her potential. This artistic ascent continued and perhaps culminated with the 1991 film Center Stage, also known as Actress. Directed by Stanley Kwan, the film saw Maggie take on the daunting role of Ruan Ling-yu, a legendary Chinese silent film star from the 1930s, who tragically took her own life at a young age, hounded by public opinion and a ruthless press. To portray such an iconic and complex figure was a monumental challenge. Maggie immersed herself in the role, capturing Ruan's fragility, her artistic spirit, and the immense pressures she faced. The performance was a tour de force, earning her widespread critical acclaim not just in Hong Kong, but internationally. The crowning achievement came when she won the Silver Bear for Best Actress at the Berlin International Film Festival, a momentous honor that made her the first Chinese performer to receive this prestigious award. This was not just a personal triumph, it was a validation of her hard work and her brave artistic choices. The flower vase label was definitively shattered, replaced by the image of a serious, accomplished actress. However, this international recognition also brought an even brighter, sometimes harsher, spotlight upon her. The Hong Kong film industry during this era, often referred to as its golden age, was incredibly prolific and dynamic, but it was also notoriously demanding. Actors often worked at a relentless pace, juggling multiple film shoots simultaneously, with long hours and immense pressure to deliver. Maggie Cheung was no exception. She was part of this vibrant, high-octane environment, contributing to a string of memorable films across various genres. While the period produced classic cinema and launched many careers, the sheer intensity of the work schedule could be a significant hardship, both physically and mentally draining for those within its whirlwind. It required stamina dedication, and an ability to perform under tight deadlines, often with little time for personal respite. As her fame grew, so did the interest in her personal life. In 1998, Maggie Cheung married the French director Olivier Assayas. Their union was a meeting of different cultures and cinematic worlds, and they even collaborated professionally, with Assayas later directing her in the film Clean. However, their relationship, marriage, and eventual amicable divorce in 2001 were subjected to relentless media scrutiny, particularly by the Hong Kong paparazzi, who were infamous for their aggressive tactics and insatiable appetite for celebrity gossip. This constant intrusion into her private affairs was a profound hardship, a daily battle for a semblance of normalcy. She often spoke out against the invasiveness of the press, expressing her frustration at having her personal moments turned into sensational headlines. The desire for privacy became a recurring theme, a stark contrast to her very public profession. The experience of having her marriage dissected in public and then her divorce analyzed undoubtedly took an emotional toll, reinforcing her cautious approach to sharing her personal life. The turn of the millennium brought what is arguably her most iconic role in Wong Kar-wai's visually stunning and emotionally resonant masterpiece, In the Mood for Love, released in 2000. Co-starring with Tony Leung, Maggie played Su Li Zhen, a woman in 1960s Hong Kong who forms a complex, unconsummated bond with her neighbor, after they both suspect their spouses of having an affair. Her portrayal was a study in subtlety and grace, conveying a universe of longing and restraint through a mere glance or a precisely timed gesture. The film was a global sensation, celebrated for its artistry, its mood, and its unforgettable performances. Maggie's cheongsams in the film became iconic, but more importantly, her performance garnered universal acclaim, further solidifying her status as an international film star of the highest caliber. She won numerous awards for this role, and the film itself became a touchstone of modern cinema. Yet, this peak of artistic success also meant that the spotlight on her became even more intense. She was now not just a Hong Kong star, but a globally recognized figure, and with that came an even greater level of public interest and a further diminishing of her private sphere. Other critically acclaimed films from this era, like Comrades, Almost a Love Story, had already showcased her immense talent for capturing deep emotional truths, winning her Best Actress at the Hong Kong Film Awards and the Golden Horse Awards. But In the Mood for Love propelled her into a different stratum of international art house royalty. This period of her career was a remarkable journey of artistic fulfillment and widespread recognition, yet it was constantly shadowed by the pressures of a demanding industry and the unyielding, often painful, scrutiny of her life beyond the silver screen. Every triumph on screen seemed to be accompanied by a renewed challenge to her personal peace. The year 2004 had brought another remarkable milestone in Maggie Cheung's illustrious career, a moment that many actors only dream of achieving. For her powerful and raw performance in Clean, directed by her ex-husband Olivier Assayas, she won the Best Actress award at the prestigious Cannes Film Festival. In the film, she portrayed a woman struggling with drug addiction and striving to regain custody of her son. It was a challenging, gritty role, far removed from the elegant figures she often embodied, and her transformative performance was lauded by critics globally. This win was historic. She became the first Asian actress to receive this coveted honor. Standing at such a pinnacle of international success, many would have anticipated a continued aggressive pursuit of high-profile roles. Instead, Maggie made a decision that surprised many in the film world and her fan base. She chose to largely step away from acting. This was not an abrupt retirement announced with fanfare, but rather a gradual withdrawal, a deliberate choice to reclaim her time and her life from the relentless demands and pervasive scrutiny of the film industry. She expressed a desire to explore other interests, to live more freely, a sentiment perhaps born from years of navigating the often suffocating pressures of stardom. This choice, made at the zenith of her acclaim, was in itself a quiet act of rebellion against expectations, a personal path taken that some found perplexing, but many respected as a courageous move towards self-determination. Even as she sought a more private existence, the complexities of public life did not entirely recede. In 2005, a legal entanglement surfaced, a kind of hardship that often plagues celebrities. Reports emerged that a garment manufacturer had filed a lawsuit against Maggie and her agency, alleging a breach of an advertising contract. These kinds of disputes, revolving around contractual obligations and image rights, can be stressful and time-consuming. Adding another layer to the situation, Maggie reportedly filed a countersuit, claiming that the company had used her image without proper authorization before any formal contract had been finalized. Such legal battles, regardless of their outcome, represent a significant diversion of energy and can be a source of considerable frustration, a stark reminder that even in stepping back from one aspect of public life, other entanglements can arise. A few years later, in 2009, a minor professional disappointment occurred, one that illustrates the unpredictable nature of the film industry. Maggie Cheung had filmed scenes for Quentin Tarantino's highly anticipated World War II film, Inglourious Basterds. She was slated to play a character who owned the cinema pivotal to the film's plot. However, when the final cut of the movie was released, her role had been entirely removed. Tarantino later explained that the decision was due to the film's length, stating that her scenes were excellent but ultimately had to be sacrificed for pacing. While such creative decisions are common in filmmaking, it is undeniably a disheartening experience for any actor to have their work excised, especially from a project of such high visibility. For Maggie, even though she was not actively seeking roles, this experience served as another example of the sometimes impersonal and challenging realities of the cinematic world. Throughout this period of her semi-retirement from acting, the media's intense interest in her personal life, particularly her romantic relationships, persisted. This was a familiar hardship, one that had followed her throughout her career. Her relationship with German architect Ole Schirren, which lasted for several years, was often the subject of media speculation and paparazzi photos. When the relationship eventually ended, it once again became news, dissected and discussed in public forums. This unyielding curiosity about her private choices highlighted the enduring difficulty of maintaining personal boundaries when one is a globally recognized figure. Even with a significantly reduced public presence, her personal life was still considered fair game by some segments of the press, a continuous reminder of the price of fame. Driven by her desire to explore new creative avenues, Maggie Cheung embarked on a new artistic journey: music. She had always expressed a passion for music, and in the years after stepping back from acting, she began to seriously pursue it, writing songs and eventually performing live. This was a brave leap into an entirely new field, especially for someone already celebrated for her accomplishments in another art form. However, her initial foray into live musical performances, particularly at some music festivals, was met with a mixed and at times harsh reception. Some critics and audience members were critical of her vocal abilities. This public criticism of her musical efforts could be seen as another form of hardship, the vulnerability of exposing a new passion and facing less than favorable reviews, especially when compared to the almost universal acclaim she received as an actress. It took courage to step onto a stage in a new capacity, fully aware that she would be judged, and the negative feedback was undoubtedly a challenging experience. Despite these occasional public ventures and the challenges they sometimes brought, Maggie Cheung has largely succeeded in cultivating a more private life in recent years. She makes sporadic appearances at fashion events or award ceremonies, always exuding her signature elegance and grace, but she carefully manages her public exposure, This guardedness is likely a direct consequence of her decades-long experience with the relentless glare of the media. The freedom she sought when she stepped back from full-time acting seems to be one she continues to prioritize, choosing her engagements carefully and focusing on personal growth and interests away from the relentless cycle of filmmaking and celebrity journalism. Her journey through this later phase has been about defining success and fulfillment on her own terms, navigating the echoes of her immense fame while carving out a space for a quieter, more personal existence, even if the world remains endlessly fascinated by her. Maggie Cheung's path from a pageant hopeful to an international film legend, and her subsequent choice to pursue life beyond the relentless spotlight, paints a picture of an artist constantly seeking authenticity. She faced industry pressures, intense media scrutiny, and personal hurdles, yet emerged as a symbol of artistic integrity and quiet strength. Her story reminds us that even the most celebrated lives are complex tapestries of joy and hardship. To explore more fascinating life stories and uncover the truths behind the legends, don't forget to like this video and subscribe for new content.